Trade Genius.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Philip with Trade Genius. All right, quick update. The G20 FSB, which is the Financial Stability Board, rejects calls for cryptocurrency regulation. This was just released Sunday evening, Eastern time. And so I think this is a pretty big deal. I think the market was kind of nervous ahead of the G20. They were concerned about calls for crypto regulation. But in reality, the G20 rejected calls from several countries who called for regulation of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. But they also stressed the need for greater international coordination monitoring cryptos. Now, important to point out that cryptos are a tiny sector equivalent to less than 1% of global gross domestic product. So again, cryptos are in their infancy. And so, yes, we have a large pullback and things seem really bearish, but we're just really getting started with this space. This is a good time to be in the right cryptos. So obviously Bitcoin, Litecoin is another one. There are several tokens, Ethereum tokens that are very strong. And so we'll kind of get into that into this video, but I think this is a huge boost as far as news goes. That's kind of anti-FUD, that the G20 really isn't interested in regulating cryptos any further. Actually, what they want to do is they want to concentrate on what the rules that are existing. So that'd be like the KYC, know your customer rules, AML, anti-money laundering. That's the kind of stuff that you're going to see probably continue to be focused on, which you already have to deal with that if you're trying to get on the exchanges and you want to be confirmed, or you want to have your account confirmed or verified. Then you can start moving in larger quantities. Otherwise, unverified accounts either eventually have to get verified or are very limited in the amount of transactions that can be withdrawn on a daily basis. That being said, if we look at the charts, a nice initial reaction. Bitcoin, as we said, was in this wedge. It went right to the top of it right now, and so we'll see what happens. Obviously, these kind of moves are knee-jerk, so you want to see if there's follow-through. For me, follow-through would be breaking out of this wedge, and so the play could be you might want to wait for this other bar to print. Now, this is a 4-hour bar. You could also go to an hourly bar and see if you get a breakout of that trend line. But right now a little bit overbought. But if that does break out and breaches, this next bar breaches this previous high, you could go for a breakout play there. Otherwise, the other alternative would be to wait for the breakout and a subsequent pullback to the trend line. So if it broke out, usually they'll do a retest and then move back up. Again, the move on that would be this measured move here on Bitcoin, this level here of $1,500 approximately higher. So if we do breakout here, then we'd be looking at, let's take this measured range here. If we broke out here, then we're looking at about this 9,500 level, which is also resistance. So that's kind of what I would be looking for, a move up at this point. But then again, if everything's been kind of shorting the pops, so that would be a point of where I would look to get out if you were going to swing trade this and see what happens. My guess would be that it would come up, reject this level first. A second attempt at it would be a higher probability that we'd break through. If we look at Ethereum, okay, so Ethereum, again, it popped as well on this news. You can see here pretty dramatically on the 1-hour chart, but also it's been rejected pretty hard. Ethereum is dealing with its own set of news, and that is this. U.S. SEC official confirms dozens of cryptocurrency probes. So the problem here is that a lot of ICOs may be considered securities, and so I think you have a lot of people getting nervous and jumping ship. And we don't have any information as far as who's getting investigated right now, other than what the full scope is. I guess we'll find out over time. So that's very bearish. And I mentioned this in last week's video, that Ethereum, out of the three amigos of Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum, that Ethereum is going to be probably the one that's got the most bearish sentiment. And so that being the case, we have to look at, basically what our downside targets are. Now, this is the G20 news pop right here, okay? But you notice it's getting rejected. And it's getting rejected right under 600, that makes perfect sense to me because we got a big volume node here. But I think bigger picture, I think what Ethereum is probably looking at, and it is putting in a nice wick here, but it's kind of turning into a doji on the daily. I think these lower fib targets, now it took out this fib target here of 561. That was from this range here, so we can delete that. And so we have these lower fibs, but I think you see this volume node here. I think this is probably final destination area. It may even break this trend line that's been about a year old. That's a long-term trend line. My guess is we're going to roll over again on this and test this lower low, because I think Ethereum is a little bit in a different space because of all of this ICO probing. What would change my mind is if we broke distinctly back above 700 area. I think that would definitely change the sentiment. But right now, I think that we got another thrust down, and so definitely testing this trend line is probably on the table. But this 350 area, I would definitely get long there for sure. I think that's just plenty of support there, and it's definitely going to bounce if we see that level. As far as Litecoin goes, Litecoin is strong again. We see a nice pop off the news from the G20. Again, guys, we need to see follow through on this, though. I wouldn't say the party's gonna get started right here and now. We got to see some follow through. You always will get an initial knee-jerk reaction, and you'll see an ABC move or 1, 2, 3 move. And what I mean by that is you'll go up, you're gonna have a down. So this is like 1, this is 2, and what we want to see is 3 higher. Okay, so that's what you want to see. So does the knee-jerk reaction have a follow-through? And that goes for everything. But right now, just looking at Litecoin, I also have the candle counter chart up. And you can see we had a 9 count, which is that's basically like what you're looking for a reversal, which coincided with the news, and boom, higher. So bigger picture on the daily, we are kind of violating this bull fib zone, and that's not good. That being said, if this news does carry through, we can break out of this wedge, and then again, so we'll be looking for a measured move. What that measured move would be this size of this here, is how I would measure it. So let's look at that price range. So we're looking at about a $70 move from, if we can break out of this level. So that would take us to around 230. Again, I think still we have to get into this. If we just look at the most recent price action, there's not a lot of huge volume nodes that are sticking out. So, but I do think that this 250 level is important. We came up, we tested it, and we failed. So those are typically going to be big lines in the sand, if you will. So again, I think for Litecoin, it's all about getting above that 250 mark. So that's kind of the outlook here for going into this week, guys. Ethereum, I think, has a lot to deal with. Litecoin, I think, again, much like Bitcoin, if we can break out of this wedgie, we'll see a nice move back up. And this G20 news may be the catalyst needed to kind of put an end to this downward pressure that we've been seeing across the space. Otherwise, again, I'd be looking at this 105 level. I don't think we're going to get down there, but if we do, that 105 level would be a great spot to add to longer term Litecoin positions. But for right now, it's all about breaking out of this wedgie, kind of like Bitcoin. Bitcoin looking really strong. Again, they faded it there. That's normal. But what we want to see now is if we look on a smaller time frame, we've got our linear regression channel up here. But this is where I would be looking to see. So this is your, like I was telling you guys, move up. We'll see a move down. This is the important move here that we want to see happen in the next 24 hours. We can also look at the alt charts. Bring that up here in a second. So this is a 6-hour and 24-hour. As you can see, You know, obviously a big move off the news, and altcoins are kind of following suit. This is 6 hour, 24 hour. We're pretty much flat on Bitcoin. Altcoins fared worse. And if we look at longer term, but we're moving in unison more or less. So again, that's kind of one of the key factors I'm looking at for this whole space turning up. So anyway, I think the next 24 hours will be kind of important to see how that G20 news affects the entire space, if we start seeing some broad moves higher or not. But again, I think for certain, I think the token space is going to get, if you're not really a strong player or you don't have a good utility case, I think you're going to be under pressure, and that's going to spill over to Ethereum for the time being, until that SEC stuff starts, plays out and we get more information. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take care. Bye.
Trade Genius.